Welcome back to Flight Education. Today we'll be exploring geometry, or the study of shapes. First, I want to introduce you to two concepts if you haven't already heard of them: area and perimeter. Perimeter is the length of all the sides in a shape. You can think of it as having a field, and if you were to put a fence around the field, the perimeter would be the total length of the fencing. You can find the perimeter just by adding up the lengths of all the sides of the shape. For example, here we have a triangle with side lengths 2 inches, 3 inches, and 4 inches. To find the perimeter, we can just add up those side lengths. So 2 plus 3 plus 4, which gets us 9. It's important to remember that you have to use units to measure things. In this case, we're given inches, so we're going to use inches in our answer. So it's 9 inches. If someone were to ask you what your height is, you can't just say a number because that doesn't mean anything. They have to know what you're measuring with. And the same thing applies to perimeter, which is why we're using inches, because that's what they gave us. So let's look at another example. So here we have a more complicated example, but it's still the same concept. So we have 5 sides, side length 3 feet, 4 feet, 3 feet, 5 feet, and 7 feet. So when we add up those 5 numbers, 3 plus 4 plus 3, plus 5 plus 7, we'll get 22 feet. And once again, we have to use feet because that's the unit they gave us. If we didn't use a unit, then we wouldn't know how long the perimeter is because we don't have some way of measuring it. Now let's talk about area. Area is, like it sounds, the total area covered by a shape. When we look at this rectangle here, the total area is just the number of squares shown. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means if each of these squares is its own unit, then the total area is 6 units squared. So what does this 2 mean? So this means units squared. And the reason we have to write it like this is because when we measure area, we're not measuring just one way, like in perimeter where we're just measuring like length. In area, we're measuring in what's called 2 dimensions because not only are we measuring this way, but we're measuring that way too. So we use squares instead of line segments as our measurements. So we're not using inches to measure area, we're actually measuring with square inches, which is just a square where one side is 1 inch, where each side is 1 inch. So if this was measured in inches, our units would be square inches or inch squared with a little 2 on top, which means inch squared. So since we're not given a specific unit here, I just use units, and then I made sure to include the 2 here to show that it's not like a unit of length, but it's a unit of area, so it's a square. So let's look at another way we can calculate area. So here I've numbered the sides on the rectangle. 1, 2, 3 for this side, and 1, 2 for this side. So you can think of it as having 2 groups of 3 squares, or 3 groups of 2 squares. So that would be 3 times 2, or 2 times 3. Either way, we get the same answer, which is, like we saw before, 6 units squared. So what that shows is that we can find the area of a rectangle or square by multiplying one side by the side next to it. So in this case, 3 times 2, we'll get our answer of 6 because this is essentially just 3 groups of 2. And this works for every rectangle, as we'll see in a little bit. Alright, let's look at another example of area. So here we have a rectangle with side length 4 meters by 3 meters. So as we saw earlier, we can find the area of a rectangle by just multiplying one side by the side next to it. So in this case, we have 4 times 3, which is equal to 12. So our answer is, because our unit is meters, 12 meters squared. And remember, we can't just say 12 meters because we're not measuring in meters, we're measuring in square meters. And we can clarify our answer by drawing that grid like we did earlier, where we have 3 meters on this side, 4 meters on this side. And each of these boxes represents 1 square meter. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 square meters. So we can see that our multiplication was correct, and our answer is 12 meters squared, or 12 square meters. Alright, so that's it for today's lesson. We have helpful worksheets in the description below for you to practice what you've learned, and there's also a link to our website which has more worksheets on other subjects. Also, don't forget to subscribe and check out our channel to see more videos like these. Thank you for watching. Goodbye!